There is some level of introspection going on in the Democratic Party after the election. At least there are discussions about the question, why did we lose? And one of the popular answers that is emerging among elite Democrats to this um, is found in the current number one best-selling nonfiction book by Ezra Klein of the New York Times and Derek Thompson of the Atlantic. It's called Abundance. And I don't know if you know anything about this, but you come in for a little bit of you personally come in for criticism in this. In fact, they sort of they blame in many ways you and the Naders Raiders of the 70s for creating a bloated administrative state. I just want to read a couple of things that from the Ezra Klein book, because as we're discussing, how the Democrats need to reform, I was hoping you could respond to this. And essentially, their argument is that in many ways, liberal governance has failed. It's failed to build. There's a lot of red tape, and so it's made it so that conservative criticisms of red tape and bureaucracy has some teeth to them. And they say in their book, Nader didn't just criticize the government; he launched a movement to tame it. His raiders did contribute to some of the most important environmental laws in history, but what they were building was an arm of liberalism designed to relentlessly sue the government itself that would fight for more bills and rules that would widen opportunities to sue the government. Nader himself said, I don't know anyone who sued more agencies at one point. And they said Nader and his raiders believed in government. They defended it from conservative assault, and yet they created laws and processes that were available to bog clean energy projects down in environmental reviews and processes that were able to stop governments from building highways through your town, but could also keep a nonprofit developer from building affordable housing. I don't know if you've heard about this criticism and how you would respond to it, because a lot of there's a big abundance conference now that's had congressmen at it. A lot of them are kind of latching onto this narrative that in some ways efforts to tame the government ended up making the government ineffective.
Shame on Ezra Klein. The Democrats always scapegoat their losses. It's never their fault. They never look in the mirror. They're always looking at the Green Party did it, and Dr. Stein did it in Pennsylvania. And so the problem with Ezra Klein is he never talks to people like us. He doesn't put people like us on the program. He doesn't know how to use phrases like corporate crime or corporate welfare. So let's address what he's saying. So we got a lot of good laws through in the early 70s and late 60s. They were laws to save lives on the highway, in the marketplace, in the food arena, in the hospitals. There were laws to reduce air and water pollution, to make household products safer. So basically, it was the government saying to corporations, you're not going to decide who's going to live or die anymore by your profit calculation. You're going to have to meet mandatory safety standards. So what's so wrong about that? You would think he would at least focus on all the lives saved and remarkable reduction in lead poisoning of people's body with the end of lead-based paint and gasoline and cleaner water and so forth. Instead, he hops on this obstruction by bureaucracy, and you can't get anything done in terms of projects because of all the permit complexities. Well, see, he doesn't go deep enough. For example, the greatest obstructions often come from corporations demanding waivers, demanding all kinds of things for their own preference, like the tax code is massive and full of loopholes and inefficiencies and preferences and privileges. That's the result of all the corporate lobbying. So he doesn't mention the role of the tax code. He mentions if you want to get a building permit in New York, it's like a nightmare. And there's a lot to that. But to blame consumer advocates, environmental advocates, why don't you blame the local government and the various business interests who get locked in and demand this kind of response or this kind of product or this kind of material or this kind of review? To make Ezra Klein's narrow argument legitimate, he's ascribing too much power to the people instead of the corrupt politicians who are always responding to one special interest after another that has a stake in a particular project or a particular undertaking that we used to call public works. The problem with Ezra Klein is he doesn't focus on the corporate domination of our political economy, of our culture, of our children sufficiently, and he's lost his way.
Hope you're enjoying this interview. If you want to listen to full-length current affairs interviews before they are made fully available to the public, please visit our Patreon page at patreon.com/currentaffairs and become a supporter today.